The future of Bellator could very well be shaped this weekend. Bellator 206 takes place at SAP Center here in San Jose, California, headlined by a super fight. The welterweight champion Rory MacDonald moving up in weight to take on Gegard Mousasi for the Bellator middleweight title. I am Marc Raimondi for MMAfighting.com, alongside legendary combat sports journalist Dave Meltzer of MMAfighting.com and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, you've covered many events in San Jose, many MMA events.
Many, kickboxing, everything.
Kickboxing,
yeah.
Many of them promoted by Scott Coker, who was promoting this event.
Yeah, probably going back over 20 years, well over 20 years, because I was coming to shows, I mean, well, 90s. He started in the 80s, but I think my first shows would be in the 90s at San Jose State, probably.
So obviously a large breadth of history there. Where does this one stand for you as far as importance for the organization? Maybe not the biggest in terms of money draw, but as far as importance for Bellator, where does this one stand, this card?
Well, it's real big because it's the DAZN debut. It's big because of the ramifications of the main event. You've got two champions, and I mean, what happens next can go a million different ways depending on what happens in that fight. So that's like one of the bigger fights, I think, for Bellator as far as like championships go. Every Aaron Pico fight I think is interesting because people are following his rise to the top. Vanderlei and Rampage is that Legends fight that, you know, that's kind of like a Bellator specialty on big shows as they bring back guys who have feuded before. So I think that I'm kind of interested in this one, you know, more than, you know, I think that the one that they did where they did the kickboxing and the MMA on the same show,
Dynamite, yeah.
The Dynamite show, that was interesting and different too. So, you know, usually when they come here, they usually have a fairly loaded show. It's Scott's hometown, and he likes to put on good shows.
This streaming deal with DAZN, this is the first, I guess you would say, tentpole event on DAZN. What is the significance of this streaming deal for Bellator?
Well, financially, it's huge, but I mean, as far as the you know, we're watching kind of an evolution in combat sports and sports in general over the next 5 years, 10 years of what happens. Do these streaming services pay off? What happens to television? The big sports are going to be, you know, I mean, or are these, is this going to be like some bubble that bursts? I mean, it's like everything, it's going to be a 5, 6, 7 year journey. I mean, especially when the NFL and the NBA rights come due and where these streaming services, because obviously all these sports services right now, they can get in on MMA because the contracts are up and things like that. But the big money is when the big sports come in. And the combat sports are going to kind of tell the future of, does this stuff make it? Because in 5 years, if this stuff isn't doing well, they were not going to have the money or the prestige to learn the big sports. So we're at the very beginning of a long story.
So the main event, Rory MacDonald again moving up to middleweight. He holds the welterweight title. And I guess the result of this fight is very significant as far as what is Bellator going to do in the future, because we already know Rory MacDonald is supposed to fight John Fitch in the first round of the Bellator welterweight Grand Prix sometime maybe the beginning of next year. Right. And he's going to be defending his welterweight title throughout that tournament. So if he beats Gegard Mousasi, what happens? What does Bellator do, and how does this fight kind of shape what Bellator is going to be doing next?
Well, I mean, it depends on I think that after the fight, we could probably discuss that a lot. Right now, there's like so many ramifications. If he's not hurt and he wins, that's really interesting because, again, then what do you do with the middleweight title? If he loses a good fight and he's not hurt, then we know what's going to happen. He's going to defend the title in the tournament and everything's fine. If he's hurt, I guess an alternate comes into the tournament. The welterweight title, I don't know what happens to the welterweight title if there's an alternate in the tournament. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways it can go. You know, yeah.
Rory MacDonald has a win over Tyron Woodley, the UFC welterweight champion. He was a former title challenger in the UFC. I think everyone would agree that he is an elite welterweight.
Oh yeah.
Is there a way for him to prove himself as the best welterweight in the world, even though he's fighting a middleweight tonight? Is there a way for him to do that in Bellator, do you think?
Not prove, no, because I think that to be the best, you've got to beat the best, and he would have to beat like Wonder Boy and maybe Tyron Woodley again to be the best, because Wonder Boy beat him pretty handily when they fought.
How much would a win over Mousasi help him? Because Mousasi, by all accounts, is one of the top middleweights in the world as well. Well,
if he beats him, that's really weird because it's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win in some sense. You could argue Mousasi is tougher than anyone in the UFC welterweight division because he's a really good middleweight.
Big, much bigger.
Yeah, yeah, much bigger. I mean, in that sense, from a prestige standpoint, for him as a welterweight, I mean, you've got to say there's a question mark at that point if he does win. I can't say he can prove he's the best because he doesn't beat the best, but if he does get a win, you kind of have to look at him and go, you know, Tyron Woodley may have to prove something. There is a question about who's the best at that point.
What does Mousasi have to gain in this fight? Because he's fighting the smaller man. It's his weight class. He actually fought at 205 for much of his career. So
Right.
what is his upside in this fight?
He even fought heavyweight a couple times.
That's right.
But yeah, it's just a name. I mean, as far as like, he's got a lot less upside than Rory, but he's also the favorite just because of the size.
Certainly. And maybe a fight with Lyoto Machida down the line, a rematch. That could be a big fight for Bellator,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh yeah.
Co-main event is between a couple of legends, Rampage Jackson against Vanderlei Silva. It's the 4th time they're fighting. They haven't fought each other in about 10 years. You've covered both these guys for a very long time. Aside from this just being kind of a fun fight for the fans, two well-known fighters, legends, is there any significance to this bout?
No, I mean, just kind of like a nostalgia feel. I mean, I don't. As far as championships go, I mean, they both lost in the heavyweight tournament, you know, so they're out of it. I don't see either of them challenging for a heavyweight championship. Although, who knows? I mean, Rampage has a big name. Maybe they'll do that at some point. But you know, I'll tell you what. I mean, when I was thinking about this thing, the one thing I got to say is, and who knows what's going to happen in 2018? But when they fought twice in Pride, those were two of the best fights ever. Those fights were so great. The UFC fight was a one-punch knockout.
Right.
But those first two fights were ridiculous.
You think they can turn back the clock this weekend?
Man, it's going to be difficult. We're talking, what, 12, 14 years? 14 years, right? 2004 was really the key. So probably not. But, you know, again, I guess for satisfaction for Rampage, if he wins, it's 2-2, and he won the last two. If Vanderlei wins again, Rampage will probably be very upset, because I think people expect Rampage to win based on the last one, and he's a little bit younger. He's physically a lot bigger,
right? You
know, for all those reasons.
The aforementioned Bellator Welterweight Grand Prix kicks off on this card as well. Douglas Lima versus Andrei Koreshkov, two former champions. This is a trilogy fight. Right. They're both 1-1 against each other. What excites you about this matchup?
Yeah, well, this match, I mean, it's completely unpredictable, and it's probably going to be exciting as hell. You know, so I mean, that's, I guess that's what excites me the most. I mean, I remember the one that Douglas Lima won, and I was surprised, you know, and he, I mean, that's a very conclusive win, you know, so we'll see. But Koreshkov's, you know, he's only got 2 losses in his career, so, and he's a good all-around fighter.
They both only have 2 losses, which is incredible. And Lima's only lost to MacDonald and Ben Askren. That's incredible. Yeah. You think the winner of that fight is kind of an early favorite in the tournament, or at least number 1A to Rory MacDonald?
Yeah, I think probably would. You know, Rory's got to go in a little bit as the favorite,
of course,
because he had to win over Douglas Lima. But I would say, if you look at the rest of it, I mean, it's a tough tournament. There's a lot of guys, but yeah, I think that you're kind of. I do see this as the most interesting first round match. Yeah.
Aside from the big names and what people are thinking are going to be great fights, there is another really interesting story on this card. Aaron Pico, who absolute blue chip prospect. Dave, you've been covering MMA since the ground floor. Where does he rank as far as prospects in mixed martial arts? Well,
you know, it's funny. I would say that the 2 guys that I remember who, before they ever had a fight, that I heard the most about were Aaron Pico for sure and BJ Penn. You know, because BJ Penn actually trained here in San Jose, and when he did, everyone was going like, oh my God, this guy, nobody within 20 pounds can beat him. And he had a great career. You know, some would say maybe a little disappointing in some ways, but he was still a world champion, dominant lightweight for years, and a big drawing card and everything like that. So I would say, like, to me, those are the 2 names that kind of pop up. I mean, unless, you know, somebody like Kyle Snyder comes in, you know, as an Olympic gold medalist into MMA or something like that. But this is a guy, I mean, look, I started hearing about him for MMA at the age of 15. That's the first that I heard, because he had done the boxing, and he, as the Golden Gloves. He had done pancration as a kid. And of course, his wrestling was, I don't think people really understand what a great wrestler he was unless you really followed the sport of wrestling. I mean, he had a chance to go to the Olympics at 19. He missed by 1 point in one of the closest, you know, qualifying matches that I've ever seen. And the guy he lost to didn't place, but was close to place and was close to medaling. And he swears he would have medaled in the Olympics. And I remember when he started and everything like that, I thought, you know, 19 medaling in the Olympics, that's, I mean, it's a cool story, but that's very unlikely. But I thought, like, at 23, this guy could do it. And, you know, I don't know if he's ever going to go back to wrestling or not, but, you know, I mean, the point is that growing up and everything like this, he was beating the guys who were probably going to be winning medals at the 2020 Olympics. He was beating all those guys.
Pico is 3-1 in MMA.
Yeah.
His opponent, Leandro Higo, is 18-4.
Right.
Is coming off a Bellator title shot. Is this too soon for a 22-year-old prospect in Pico, do you think? That level of competition?
It's a big jump. He hasn't fought anyone like this. I mean, when you watched him, especially in the last 2 fights, I mean, he had that look of someone who, like, you just go like, oh God, this guy might be able to beat everyone, because he's got that, you know, that left hook to the body that's just killer. And, you know, once he nails it with that power, you know, and you kind of look and it's like, he's got the left hook to the body. No one's going to take him down, and if they do, he's getting right back up anyway, and they're not going to take him down probably. So it's like, yeah, if somehow they get caught on the ground, Leandro Higo probably has a good shot at beating him. If he can keep him down for a long enough time, because he does have a huge jiu-jitsu experience edge. But, you know, I mean, I looked at it when they first announced the match. I was really surprised, because I thought, wow, that's a big jump from the guys that he's been fighting. So it's a question. Is it too soon? I guess we'll find out. If he wins at that point now, then he's going to be fighting. He probably should be fighting the toughest guys.
A couple last questions here. Carrie Melendez, of course, the wife of Gilbert Melendez, you know, another Bay Area resident, well known, and she's kind of coming into her own in MMA. She has a few highlight reel knockouts, big power for someone her size. Is she a potential future star, or at least a little bit of someone people can look at for Bellator?
I mean, I think that they promoted her with the idea that she could be a star. She's a good kickboxer, and obviously with Gilbert, she's getting great MMA training. I mean, I haven't really seen her ground stuff at all, just the kickboxing stuff. I mean, it's funny because she never, you know, she stopped kickboxing at a very young age. She had kickboxed here for a while.
For Scott Coker, right? She was promoted by Scott Coker.
Right, with Scott Coker shows that I saw, yeah. And then, you know, she's had a family, and Gilbert, you know, Gilbert's career and everything like that. So she's coming back. She's not that young, but she was a really skilled kickboxer, and she's shown it. I mean, I expect her to win this fight, and from there, I don't know. I mean, I think they see something in her, though. Yeah. I mean, you can see it. I think there's something there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot here in a second. Of course, Melendez faces Dakota Zimmerman on the main card. Can I ask you for your predictions for the main card? Main event: Mousasi or MacDonald?
I got to go with Mousasi, just based on the size and everything like that. And you know, again, Mousasi's looked really good at middleweight. He had the one fight was the Slenko fight that he didn't look so great in. But I mean, even in UFC on the way out, he beat Weidman. You know, I mean, I think I got to go with the size on this one.
Co-main event: Rampage Jackson, Vanderlei Silva.
Rampage just because he's younger. And Vanderlei, I got too many questions on Vanderlei. Vanderlei obviously is an all-time legend in the sport, but the last fight that I saw of Vanderlei that he looked like Vanderlei was with Brian Stann, and that was it was a hell of a fight, but it was a long time ago.
Douglas Lima, Andre Koreshkov.
That's the toughest one. Lima. I'll go with Lima.
Aaron Pico, Leandro Higo.
I'm going to go with Pico, there's a part of me that goes, that's not really logical, and all that, but I'm going to go with Pico. I think that, I just don't see how he's going to stop the boxing.
Carrie Melendez, Dakota Zimmerman.
Melendez.
Great. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Weigh-ins are about to begin. For Dave, I'm Mark. Keep tuned to MMAfighting.com for all Bellator 206 coverage from here in San Jose.